DIY tips for building big things with WordPress. My name is David Vogelpohl. I'm presenting today with Brian Messenlehner, and I'm the VP of Web Strategy at WP Engine. I've been doing affiliate marketing for about 20 years, and I've been building complex WordPress sites for 7 years. When I was getting ready for Affiliate Summit on Friday, I started to get a series of emails. And it was about a person who had joined our affiliate program, and what they were doing was something called contact form spam. And this is where they fill out contact forms and use marketing messaging, perhaps with affiliate links. Of course, we kicked them out of our affiliate program immediately, but I started to do a little digging into the IP address that was responsible for the contact form spam. And after a little digging, I realized that the IP address originated in Henderson, Nevada, which is a town just down the road. And it got me thinking that perhaps the person responsible for that was at Affiliate Summit. And maybe the person responsible for that is in this room right now. And so my purpose for bringing that up is that the purpose of this presentation is to teach you to build things that drive value for your visitors, that drive value for your business, help it grow and become more operationally efficient, and drive value for your merchants and allow them the opportunity to drive value for your visitors. This is not learning how to do apprehensible tricks. It is not learning how to be a flash in the SEO pan. I want you to ask yourself, if my site disappeared tomorrow, would more people rejoice than mourn? Certainly your competitors would rejoice, right? They would get all your search traffic. Would the visitor even notice if your site weren't available in the search rankings? And so that's why today we're going to teach you how to build big things with WordPress. So to get us started, I did want to mention this. We promoted this prior to this event. We are going to be giving away a package worth over $5,000 in free WordPress tools. Could somebody have them close the door in the back to help with the noise a little bit? In any case, so let me go through these tools real quick just to let you know what we're giving away. We're giving away 2 years of free hosting for WP Engine for 10 sites, a free agency bundle from AppPresser that's basically lets you take your WordPress site and turn it into a mobile app, a free copy of WP Forms, Opt-in Monster, and Monster Insights, which is a Google Analytics plugin. Those plugins were donated by Syed Balki, another Affiliate Summit speaker. Free copy of Advanced Custom Fields. We'll talk about that later. It's actually in the Prezzo. All premium videos for WP 101 for life. That was donated by the folks over at WP 101. A free copy of Pretty Link, which I knew is a very popular affiliate marketing plugin. You guys might use it. We're going to talk about a really interesting way to use that in a DIY build here in a little bit. Beaver Builder, which is a plugin that allows you to visually design pages without needing to be a developer. And finally, FMTC, another Affiliate Summit speaker, Rachel, that's her company that also is partially owned by Brooke Schaff of Schaff Partner Centric, if you guys know them. And all of these folks, friends of ours and people in the community, donated these plugins today, these tools today, so that way we could give them away to someone here in the audience. And to do that, we have a really interesting contest. And the contest incorporates the principle of connecting WordPress to other stuff. And that's actually a fundamental principle to understand to lay the groundwork for how you'll build your big things with WordPress. And Brian's going to go into how to do that. But don't worry if you're not a nerd and you can't pull off what we have here in a second. We have a non-nerd way you can still win this prize. So I won't take up too much time with Brian to explain the contest, but Brian Messenlehner is going to explain what we're going to do.
Hey everybody. Before I actually tell you about the contest, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Brian Messenlehner, 4 syllables. I have no idea why people mispronounce my last name. It sounds exactly how it's spelled. So I started my career development in web development in the United States Marine Corps. Any other Marines in here right now? Hoorah! Any other military guys? What branch? Awesome. Thanks for your service, guys. So I'm actually from New Jersey. Any other New Jerseyans in here? All right, yeah, we're from New Jersey. We don't pump our gas, we pump our fists. So, like I said, I started off software development in the US Marine Corps. That was actually my job. So I was a .NET developer. We dabbled in some Cold Fusion, remember that, like CF Loop, CF Query. We worked with some big databases, Oracle databases, SQL Server databases. I worked for Logistics Command, so we built and tracked all this equipment, Marines, ammo, food, everything for the support of the invasion of Iraq. Once Bush landed on the aircraft carrier and said, mission accomplished, the war was over, it wasn't, by the way, we got to go home, and I got a job at a law firm in New Jersey who specialized in insurance fraud, and I would build these big web-based applications, these big databases to track people in New Jersey committing insurance fraud. These weren't just people that had like, oh, my back's hurt, let me make a claim. These were like Russian mobsters up in North Jersey fleecing Allstate at hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and they're only like 20-something% of the market. So around 2007, a buddy of mine that I was in the Marines with flew out to New Jersey, and we started up this web development company called Web Dev Studios. And we started really messing around with WordPress and converting off of building everything from the ground up in .NET, and really took on WordPress because it was very popular. The community was very supportive. It was this great tool. So long story short, we started off with humble beginnings, and now we're doing big WordPress stuff for big brands like Microsoft, Campbell's Soup, Uber, the Discovery Channel, National Park Services. About 3 years ago, we started another company called AppPresser, which we're leveraging WordPress and how many people can build cool things on WordPress and allowing them to build native mobile apps. So about the contest, if you want to win this cool stuff here, basically we want somebody here right now or whenever during the session here, but the first person to do this is going to win these $5,000 in awesome WordPress tools. And what you have to do is you have to use IFT or Zapier to basically post a blog post on your WordPress site that will automatically post it to Twitter. The first person that does it, where's our lovely assistant?
Right there.
Oh, first person that does it, come see her and show her that you did it. She'll verify it, and you'll win these awesome tools. If nobody does that, don't worry, there's still a chance to win these prizes, and also a year of free hosting at WP Engine if you tweet out ASW17, both our Twitter handles, and something cool about this session. Each tweet counts as an entry. So WordPress is more than a blogging platform. I still, to this day, hear people say, I don't want to blog, I want a website. And WordPress can definitely be a website. WordPress can be anything that you want it to. At the end of the day, it's PHP, it's code, and a MySQL database. There's lots of things that you could build more than a blog. There's websites, there's e-commerce solutions, social communities, learning management systems, project management systems, localized intranets, mobile apps. You could even make coffee with WordPress, really, right? You could have a coffee machine hooked up to pull information from the WordPress API to make you a cup of coffee. It's a full-blown application framework, right? And the reason that I know that it's a full-blown application framework is because I wrote a book called Building Web Apps with WordPress. WordPress is an application framework, right? And I wouldn't have spent all this time writing a book, because writing books is a pain in the ass if WordPress wasn't an application framework. By the way, I have 2 copies of my book, which I'll be giving away also to somebody that tweets something funny, takes a picture of me and David, and tweets a cool caption. Make sure you get my good side, which is actually both sides. So
both sides are your good side, Brian.
Yep. So WordPress, right? It's popular. Over 27% of all the websites on the internet run on WordPress. Now that's a pretty amazing stat if you think about it, right? Over a quarter of the millions of websites out there are using this content management system to run their websites. It's open source, right? there's thousands and thousands of contributors to WordPress. It's always evolving. You could do anything that you want, pretty much, right? If something that can't be done at a core WordPress, there's probably a plugin that could do it. And if there's not, you could build a custom plugin to do that. There's plugins, like I mentioned, themes. It's also very secure, too, right? So a lot of people think, like, oh, WordPress is open source. I don't want people to see my source code. I want it to be secure. Well, I want to build a proprietary solution with maybe 7 developers. So ask yourself, how secure is a web application going to be that has 7 developers building it versus a web application that has thousands and thousands of developers building it, making it better? It's open source. It's out there. It's battle tested. So you can bet your ass that it's secure, just as long as you don't make your password. And it's extendable. Really, what makes WordPress what it is all the plugins and the themes and extending it, integrating it with other third-party systems. Hooks and filters is what is at the base of WordPress, and it allows you to extend it.
So we're going to get into the DIY builds, things that you can build on your own. But before we do that, we wanted to give you some examples of how people are using WordPress as an application framework to build things that do stuff. One of my favorite examples, I gave a similar presentation at a conference called PubCon. It's a search-focused conference. And afterwards, this guy from Intuit comes up and he says, oh my goodness, I'm doing some of that stuff. And they recently launched this set of tools on the QuickBooks site for things like a paycheck calculator, an invoice template. These are things that are baked into the QuickBooks platform, but they made simpler versions of them that you can use for free. Now, why is that valuable for QuickBooks? Well, of course, if you're going to make an invoice with their invoice template, you might be starting a business. And of course, they have an upsell funnel into QuickBooks Online. So they've built a useful tool, not a blog post that's here today and gone tomorrow. They built something that small business owners might bookmark, and then they integrated in their upsell and funnel messaging into those tools. So there was a content side to this, but the tool part were things people bookmark, they would come back to over and over again. So they didn't just come up with a new blog idea and execute it with WordPress. They literally built useful tools using WordPress. This is one of my favorite examples. How many people in here use the Yoast plugin? I don't know if you've bought the premium version, but if you did, as you were purchasing it, and then after you purchased it, when you logged into your account and you downloaded things, you might have noticed that the domain at the top is my.yoast.com. Well, that's because there's 2 separate instances of this environment for Yoast. There's one WordPress instance, which manages the content, and then there's another WordPress instance that uses a plugin, essentially, to manage what's called DRM, or digital rights management. So Yoast uses a completely separate version of WordPress to manage the licensing of the plugin that you download. He uses plugins for this, and some custom code, of course, but these are separate instances. Now, one advantage to him with this, by the way, is that if his site goes down, the licensing part still works, and if the licensing part goes down, the site still works. So it gives him a little bit of a redundancy there in messaging. But the point is, he's using WordPress as an application to facilitate digital rights management. Another good example, I think it's good because it's my example. WP Engine, we of course use WordPress in this way all the time. And one way we did was we created what's called a custom post type. It's a special post in WordPress. And what we did was we tied it into our platform and our affiliate program and our email management software. So that way our staff can go into the back end of WordPress, enter in some information around one of our theme and plugin partners, and actually deliver a solution that lets them transfer fully built sites to their customers. Now, obviously, you would need a developer for that build, but the gist is we were able to use WordPress to kick off a HubSpot email to tie into our platform and to help support our affiliate program. So again, these are ways you can use WordPress. Mobile, native apps. That's another great way you can use a WordPress application.
Yeah, so like I said before, we started this company, AppPresser, to build mobile apps. These are some great examples of mobile apps using WordPress. So the first one there on the left is one called Press Chat. And PressChat is actually a social network mobile app. So it leverages a plugin called BuddyPress, which I'll talk about in a little bit here. But it's very cool, and you could do a lot of cool stuff with it. The next two, List 25, which is Syed's app, and Torque magazine, which is WP Engine's online magazine, are both good examples of leveraging basically, a blog, a WordPress blog, to pull the content in through the WordPress REST API into a native mobile app. A very cool feature in there is every time that a new post is made on those blogs, a push notification goes out to everybody that has the app installed on their phone. And everybody has apps on their phones, right? If you look around the room right now, probably half the people are sitting there on their phone. So to be able to send something directly to them in a push notification saying, click this, read my content, is awesome. The example on the far right is an example of an e-commerce solution. Basically, if you have an online shop, you should have a mobile app for your shop. It's creating more doorways to your content, to your products. This was built using AppPresser and WooCommerce. So we talked a little bit about WordPress having no heads, right? And that might be a little confusing. Like, what are you talking about? WordPress doesn't have a head. So we're talking about the front end of WordPress, the public-facing website. So maybe you don't need a public-facing website. Actually, let me take that back. You definitely need a public-facing website for your business. But maybe you want to use a set of WordPress tools to help run your business, and you don't want to dilute your performance of your public-facing website. So you could stand up another instance of WordPress, and you could install these plugins. WordPress at its base is a great content management system. So you can manage all your content, whatever it is, all your resources, images in there. You could install different plugins that do different things. There's one called ERP, which is a CRM, right? So you could have this back-end CRM management tool. You could have project management tools. If you wanted to leverage what's available out there in the open source community instead of having to pay for these tools, then this is a great solution to do that. You could also have different heads, right? We just talked about mobile apps. Leveraging a mobile app and pushing your content and your data, or pulling it from your app or from WordPress into your app is a way to do that. Actually, WordPress.com runs all on JavaScript. It's not even a traditional WordPress theme. You could also have multiple heads at the same time. So you could have your content pushing to your mobile apps. You could have your content from one WordPress site pushing to 10 other WordPress sites, or pushing to HubSpot or Magento. The sky's really the limit, right? But you're using WordPress to basically house your data, right? A lot of companies will spend a lot of money building mobile apps, building an iOS app and an Android app, and they have to spend all this money to try to sync the data between those two different app types and their website, right? They could eliminate all those costs just by using WordPress as a data source. So when you post something to your WordPress site, boom, the content's there, and it's automatically distributed to your apps.
So WordPress is the world's most used framework for building things on the web. 27% of sites use WordPress. By the way, if you're in the WordPress ecosystem, you might have heard some controversy around that stat recently. I've dug in a little deeper. I still feel that's a very powerful stat. That stat is based on 27% of basically the top Alexa sites. It's a pretty big swath, but it's a pretty solid number. 27% of the web uses WordPress to build things that drive their business forward. And most of you have built a cat blog.
Meow.
Right. You've built a site with posts and dates, and that's what you built. So really what we're going to focus on today in the next part of this presentation is how to build your own big things. And we're going to give a series of examples that, for the most part, you can do without having to be a developer. So I'm going to start with the first one, how to create a free Bitly clone in under 7 minutes. If you go to this URL here at the bottom, literal.co/video, which, by the way, I made with the URL shortener in this build, you can build your own Bitly clone. You can control the links, you can get reporting, you can control the type of redirects. A lot of you may use pretty links in your site right now, but think about it. If you created a separate version of install with your host or on your server, you could install pretty links and not have any public-facing web pages and essentially have your own Bitly clone. And actually, when I first created the video, I titled it how to create your own Bitly or URL shortener in 15 minutes, and I had to change the title because it didn't take that long. So, so go to literal.co/video, and you can actually create your own custom URL shortener. I was using this morning as we were making some tweaks to the site and wanting to link off the documentation. So completely control your links, completely have basically your own Bitly clone with this build right here. It's actually a really fun one. This is another cool one. So how many of you happen to have a WooCommerce store? Anybody out there? I know it's great. So you're selling stuff, but a lot of folks in the affiliate space actually don't sell things, of course. You promote other people that sell things. Bob WP, who's at this conference, I don't think he's in this room right now, he has an article, if you go to /BobWoo, that explains how to use WooCommerce as an affiliate-powered e-commerce engine. So one use case of this might be, say you have a site that deals with camping or outdoors activity, you could actually install WooCommerce, activate this feature, and give your blog readers a shopping experience for the merchants that you promote and their products. So instead of WooCommerce having a buy link, it can have a visit or explore link that includes your affiliate link and then links off to your merchant. So it's a way to build a shopping experience, a shopping application, affiliate-centered within your website, and that's DIY. WooCommerce is pretty much DIY. You install the plugin, enter your products, put in your affiliate links, set aside a page for it on your site, and you're done. So you can actually build an affiliate-powered e-commerce application with WordPress using WooCommerce and the affiliate setting. This is another one that I really like. If you go to literal.co/Clipper, you'll see a build that was put out by FMTC, again in the affiliate space. And what this page will show you how to do is to build a coupon site that automatically updates with new coupons from your merchants. So you'll actually feed those coupons in, it'll automatically inject your affiliate links, and you can build a coupon site that automatically refreshes with new coupons as your merchants publish them. This is another neat one. If you're looking to set up your newsletter, especially for a new site, and you haven't set aside budget or don't have budget yet for things like MailChimp or HubSpot or Aweber, you can actually use this plugin MailPoet. Now, of course, you could install that on your primary site as a way to distribute your newsletter, but as Brian pointed out, there might be some performance issues maybe over time as you add more and more things to the site. So this is another area where you could actually set up a headless install, something without a public-facing site, literally just to manage your newsletter. Let's say you're selling, I saw a few hands raised around the WooCommerce thing. So you're selling stuff, even as a traditional or publisher affiliate marketer, you might start to sell things, digital products. Courses are another popular thing that affiliate marketers will sell, and there's an expectation of support. Well, JS Support Ticket functions like a Zendesk clone. You can actually use it to manage tickets. And again, you may want to do that in a completely separate version of WordPress to isolate it from your main site. As a matter of fact, that might be really advantageous in case your main site goes down, your support and ticketing system is still valid and up. So again, with JS Support Ticket and a headless install, you can basically build a Zendesk clone.
So let's talk about this cool plugin called BuddyPress, right? BuddyPress is essentially, people call it a Facebook in a box. It's a plugin for WordPress that turns WordPress into a social community. It has all the same tools that you would expect any real social community like Facebook or Instagram to have, right? You have member profiles, you could sign up and register, private or profile fields, and as an admin, you could set up your profile fields however you want. So you could set up a bio, people could sign up and say, I like to take long walks in the park. Private messaging, people could message each other back and forth, add each other as friends, and then they get notifications, so-and-so wants to be your friend. No, I don't like that guy. You could deny it, accept it. You could follow people. You could also public @mention people, just like Twitter, and they would get a notification. There's organic groups. If you think of Facebook groups, and you could start a new group and invite people to join that group, it has pretty much that same functionality. Activity streams, which is comparable to Facebook's, your news feed there. And it's extendable with other plugins. There's a whole community of BuddyPress specific plugins that run on top of BuddyPress. It's a little confusing, right? Because BuddyPress is a WordPress plugin that runs on WordPress, but there's BuddyPress specific plugins that run on BuddyPress. And you can build a lot of cool things. This one screenshot is we actually have it integrated with a mobile app. So you could leverage BuddyPress to have your desktop version of your social network, and you could have a mobile version. And it's all connected on the back end through WordPress. So definitely check out BuddyPress if you're into building any type of social network. And the content that could be added to a social network organically by your users is awesome, right? That's what you want, people adding content for you to your website. Another great tool for WordPress that's actually baked into core WordPress that a lot of people don't know about is WordPress Multisite. How many people are running more than one WordPress site? Oh, there's a bunch of you guys in here. So you should definitely, if you're not already running on a multi-site instance, you should definitely do some research around WordPress Multisite and try to set it up. But basically, you're running multiple websites. You could run anywhere from 1 to 100,000. I mean, there's no limit really on multiple websites that basically use this one WordPress install. So you can imagine that the time and money that you would spend on support and maintenance, say you had 500 sites, logging into each one of those sites to update the plugins or update core WordPress can take a lot of time. If you utilize WordPress Multisite, you're doing this all one time, and it updates across the board. When you set up Multisite, you have a couple options. One is setting it up as a subdirectory, so it would be yourwebsite.com/ whatever your subsite would be. That's ideal for like networks of sites. The example on the left is a school district, Newark Public Schools in New Jersey. They had about 80 websites. We built out for them on a multi-site network. So the main district, K through 12 in Newark, is the main district site. That's the top level site, and then all the schools underneath that is the sub-sites, and that's a good example of a subdirectory structure. The next is subdomain, so it could be mysite.whatever.com. And then there's a cool plugin called domain mapping that you could leverage to basically map any domain name that you want to any sub-site on the multi-site network. So if you're running a network of sites for a bunch of your clients, you could actually run them all on WordPress Multisite, and they won't even know that each other exists. They'll all have their own separate domain names and their own separate sites, their own separate dashboards, and they'll be able to get into it. We'll have some time for question and answers at the end. Multisite is also a great tool if you're into localizing your content. If you want to have different sites in different languages, all in the same network, it's a great tool. You could set up a sub-site for each language that you want to do. There's also a great tool, a plugin called WP Multi-Network, which if you think of the concept of multi-site is having multiple WordPress sites on one multi-site network, multi-network allows you to have multiple networks on a network. So just like wow, that's crazy. Another good site which we don't have, or a good plugin that we don't have mentioned here is Copyblogger. WP Engine actually has this functionality embedded into their platform. So, and what we like to do when we're building a network of large sites, of multiple sites, we'll set up a site as the template site, right? So instead of having to set up a new site and then having to log into that site and configure it and set it up and how we want it, we'll build a template site that'll be everything that we want. And then all we have to do is just say, hey, copy this template site, give it a new name, click a button, and boom, here's your site. So if you haven't checked out Multisite, definitely do that.
What was the name of the plugin? I didn't clearly hear it when you were saying
Blog Copier as well.
Blog Copier.
There's quite a few of them that do that. And if you search for multi-site specific plugins, there's a whole slew of them, which are really cool. Multi-site's a really great tool if you're managing more than one WordPress site. So there's also these cool automated tools out there. Two of my favorite are Ift and Zapier. And with Ift and Zapier, you could either make applets or zaps that essentially connect to all these different third-party services out there and could easily send and receive content and data. Did anybody win our contest yet? Awesome. So
He built the app that connected WordPress, and oh my goodness, congratulations.
awesome. So for example, I like to think that my time is valuable. So when I post something on social media, instead of having to post it to Instagram and then log into Twitter and post it to Twitter and then post it to Facebook and then post it to LinkedIn and then post it on my blog, I used an IFT recipe, or applet now, which they call them, to basically connect my Instagram to all those other social networks. If you use Buffer, you could actually add your stuff to Buffer with IFT or Zapier as well. Zapier has a cool zap which lets you connect multiple connect a WordPress site to any number of WordPress sites you want. So you could post your blog to one, and it gets farmed out to wherever you want. These are really cool tools. They integrate with all sorts of other services, so you should definitely check out IFT and Zapier if you haven't already.
I'm just going to drop one note. This is really DIY friendly stuff. Like, you can connect multiple systems using Zap and IFT and do some really interesting things. So sign up for those services and just go through and see what's possible and come up with your own ideas. But it's actually super DIY friendly, those two tools.
Yeah, one of the cooler ones is geofencing, where like you could hook it up to Twitter to where if anybody, actually I probably should have set one up for this event as an example, would have been cool. But if anybody tweets within this building, you could do whatever you want with it, essentially. You could retweet it or add it to your WordPress site, or do whatever you want. It's really cool. So build your own affiliate-powered mobile app. What we talked about a little bit before, everybody should have a mobile app. So we actually built this framework called AppPresser. So let me tell you the story behind AppPresser. A few years back, we had a job with the New York City Department of Education where we were building a badging system. Gamification is real big, right? It's, get people engaged in your content, get them coming back, get them, winning things. So we built this whole gamification system for the New York City Department of Education to teach kids in low-income neighborhoods in New York City digital literacy. And the idea was that if they could learn how to navigate the internet, manage the internet, and eventually make money on the internet, then they could uplift themselves out of their physical surroundings. It was a really cool thing. So anyway, we got a job after that with the YMCAs in New York City, and they wanted to build an iPad-based kiosk. So when one of their members walks into the Y, they take out their ID card and they scan their membership card, on the iPad, and it logs them into the system, and then they could take all these different challenges: the weightlifting challenge, the basketball challenge, or if you swim every day of the week for every week of the month for 5 years straight, you get the Michael Phelps challenge or something. So we were at a dilemma because we wanted the job with the YMCAs in New York City, right? Like, who wouldn't want that job to build that cool thing? But we weren't iOS developers, right? We were WordPress developers, and we built this whole cool badging system, which they wanted to leverage. So we built a hybrid mobile app. The only part that was really native was interacting with the camera, which we figured out. And everything else was just basically a web view inside of the app that pulled up a WordPress theme that was built to look and feel and function like a native mobile app, mostly JavaScript based. And to the end user, they wouldn't know the difference. This was a really cool concept at the time, and it worked great. We got another job that kind of led from that job with the Dallas Museum of Art, where they wanted to do something similar. They wanted to put an iPad-based kiosk in front of the exhibits so people could walk up and log in and interact with the exhibits. After that project, we were like, man, this would be really cool to build a framework. Like we mentioned before, I think back then it was right around maybe a little under 25% of the internet used WordPress. Now it's 27. But we wanted to build a framework that would allow all this huge group of people that knew how to use WordPress, but maybe didn't know how to build mobile apps, to be able to build mobile apps. And that's where AppPresser was born. When we first created it, we looked around to see, what are the tools are available for building mobile apps. There's a tool called PhoneGap. Some of you may be familiar with it. But if you think of WordPress as open source for building websites, PhoneGap is open source for building mobile apps. And all AppPresser is essentially a bridge between the two. And with AppPresser, you have, basically there is a series of WordPress plugins that you can install that do everything from interact with the camera to the GPS to the accelerometer. We have other plugins that interact with third-party WordPress plugins like WooCommerce and BuddyPress, so you can create your own social networking app, stuff like that. Probably the best tool to use, like I mentioned before, is definitely push notifications. Pushing out whatever you want to somebody whenever you want is awesome and key to get things back.
And guys, don't forget, big affiliate marketers are using these types of techniques. Syed Balki, who is a super affiliate, who's here. You guys, you're not seeing him speak because he's actually speaking right now. You're in the right place, though. He uses this for List 25. Again, it's just a content site. There's nothing like specially functional about it other than push notifications and content, as I understand it. But it's a way to leverage native with even just a simple content site. So look into that because it's definitely valuable.
Now we have, we're on the third version, AppPresser 3. We just released it last Thursday. And we're actually providing free push notifications through our service, which is pretty cool. Advanced custom fields, right? So some of you are using WordPress know when you install a default install WordPress, you get posts and pages, right? Well, those are just post types, CPTs. You can create post types to be whatever you want. Within each post type in your posts, you might have noticed that you have a little meta box when you're adding a new post called custom fields. And it has like a text box that you could put in your custom field meta key, and it has another text box which you could put in your meta value. So what Advanced Custom Fields does is it gives you an interactive UI so that you could set up your own metadata so that you don't have to remember what you typed each time you go to add a new post. For example, I was in the Marines, right? So if we wanted to leverage WordPress in the Marines to track Marines, we could have a custom post type called Marines, and we could use custom fields to set up meta fields, meta keys for Marine name, SSN, rifle serial number, gas mask size, their personal bio, their photo, whatever you want. It's just metadata. But advanced custom fields, if you're a dev kind of savvy person, and even if you're not, it's a great tool to get in there and kind of define what you want your metadata to be for your content-driven website. So definitely check out advanced custom fields. There's also some other plugins out there that do similar things. So, but if you don't want to like manage it all yourself and kind of want to define it and have your users be able to go in there and select from drop-down boxes instead of having to type stuff in, this is a great time saver and a great tool.
Yeah, ACF is really powerful. As a matter of fact, as developers get into making more advanced sites, ACF tends to be where they start. A little DIY-y, a little matrix, but it's cool. And the way to think about metadata is instead of editing the content in the WYSIWYG and messing it up, which I'm sure we've all done that before, ACF and metafields basically mean you just edit the text or the image, and then the HTML and CSS wrap around it. So it kind of idiot-proofs your WordPress site. So you don't have to actually go in and mess with the WYSIWYG. And I mean, we've all messed up a WYSIWYG layout before trying to change content. ACF basically removes all that, and you literally just put in just the text or just the pictures.
Your theme on the front end has to be set up, though, to be able to interact with those custom fields that you define. But that is a great point.
Yeah, so it's not fully DIY, but the end result actually makes your site much more manageable and much more DIY. But, okay, look, we've nerded out on a lot of this stuff, and I get some of it. You may still need to hire a developer. So I wanted to give you some tips for how you might do that. My favorite is to just get involved with the WordPress community. There's a WordPress meetup likely in your town every month. There's something called a Word Camp every year. And what these people do is they get around once a month and they all sit in a room and nerd out and talk about ways to build WordPress sites better. And then they'll oftentimes ask the question, how can we get more clients? How can we meet more people to service? They're kind of echoey chambery, right? So they're staying in their community. So my recommendation is to join their community. You'll also learn more about how to improve your own WordPress sites, and you'll meet really smart people, introverts who aren't getting out there, that you can actually connect with and potentially hire for your company or hire as a freelancer. Codeable is like freelancer.com, but it's only for WordPress. Unlike freelancer.com, they actually give tests to the developers that go through there. There's people overseas that are part of Codeable that have very affordable rates. And again, they're a vetted group of around 250 WordPress developers. Affiliate Summit uses one of their developers for some work on some of their sites. And I have a bunch of other folks I know that use them. I also know the company very well. And it's a great place to go find a developer. You can find high-end folks, and you can also find folks that aren't too expensive.
Hey, David.
Yes, sir.
Before you move on, I just want to mention that there's actually a WordPress meetup group in Las Vegas on Wednesday. So if anybody is still here on Wednesday and wants to participate, if you go to meetup.com and search Las Vegas WordPress Meetup Group, go RSVP and come check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. These are great opportunities to socialize and learn, but it's also great opportunities to meet people you could hire to help you with your site. And then if you've got a bigger business and a decent amount of budget, you might want to hire the best of the best. These are people like WebDev, which Brian's founder of. 10up is another good one. They're out of New York. There's another one called Crowd Favorite. And these agencies specialize in building WordPress applications. So really, you're looking for a WordPress developer that can build. The best way to do it, my litmus test is, can you build a custom plugin? And if the answer to that is yes, then I might explore more with that person. If the answer to that is no, then I know that they're probably just a front-end developer that can't really get too sophisticated. That's my litmus test, just to know whether I should be talking to this person or not about what I might want them to do. But check out Codeable, go to the meetups, and then if you have big budget, if you want to build a really big thing, check out some of the larger agencies. But the point to all this today was really to illustrate that you can leverage WordPress to build things that people bookmark, right? If every idea you come up with is another blog, every idea you have just puts hundreds of hours on your task list, right? You have to now come up with content for that blog forever. You have to come up with social media strategies for that blog forever. You're on a content treadmill. If everything you build is a content site, you will never stop working, and everything you launch will be hundreds of hours of more work. Intuit built these tools with WordPress: an invoice builder, a paycheck calculator, the 1099 or W-2 employee tool. How much time did they spend on that this month? 0. They built it and launched it last month. Our tool that we use to integrate in with our plugin and theme affiliates, how much time did we spend on that last month? 0, because it was already there. We built another tool that runs a speed test on your website and captures an email and gets them into a couple of emails. And it's actually the highest converting lead gen tool we have. Better than every ebook, better than everything. It converts at 3 times the value. We spent 0 hours on it last month because we launched it last year. Build things people bookmark. Build things that don't require hundreds or thousands of hours of your time. That's what this presentation was about. So we did have a winner. What's your name, sir? Nick. So Nick was our winner. He built an application that tied in his WordPress site so that every time he posts to WordPress, it automatically posted to Twitter. So he won the $5,000 in free WordPress stuff. Can we give a hand for Nick? But don't feel bad. I know a lot of you couldn't pull that off by the end of this presentation. So you remember, we were still giving away, if someone won, which they did, 1 year of free hosting for 10 websites on WP Engine, and that was a randomly selected person tweeting. Hangna is shaking her head as if she has a winner. Can you announce who the winner is? Brad Waller? Mr. Brad, right up front. A round of applause for Brad. And Brad's a familiar face. I'm wondering if you're already a WP Engine customer. But you get 10 free sites for free. So for a year. So cool.
For the books, I'm gonna after this, I'll look at all the pictures and stuff and pick out the funniest one, and then I'll tweet you and say, hey, meet me here, and I'll give you a book.
So yeah, so Brian will hook up with you later to get the book. So questions. Oh, there's got to be one question.
Have a question.
What about the guy in the back? You raised your hand like 7 times.
Oh yeah.
You owe me a Coke.
Yeah, so we were actually anticipating this question, and I'll let David speak to that.
So I'll repeat it for the video and for the rest of the audience. He said, what is the impact of multi-site, using multi-site to manage a bunch of websites in one version of WordPress as it relates to SEO? So when we were talking about this morning, I said, someone's going to ask that question as soon as we have this slide up, and you won the prize. My thoughts on this, and I'm happy to debate this with anyone that wants to talk, is if you're building valuable sites that you're not afraid, that are not spam, that are not some trick, that are not interlinking to each other in tricky ways, then it doesn't matter. If you're building valuable sites, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Now, if you're interlinking between them in slimy ways and you're not really building things that drive value, you're just really building kind of a link network with yourself, yeah, you could argue that having a unique IP address for every site would help. I know I've even seen some other faces in here. I've debated with this before. But my opinion, and I only build things that, that I feel drive value. I'm not building sites that interlink to each other for some sort of link ring scam or something, or trick. Not to say it's a scam, because it's completely legal. There's nothing illegal about it. You're just trying to kind of get one over on Google. Google's policies are not law, they're Google's policies. So my philosophy is that if you're building a link network that you're trying to obfuscate, no, it's not a good fit for that. But my counter to that is your ability to obfuscate your link network is very difficult. Right? Google has all kinds of information on who you are and the sites you manage. If you're using Chrome, if you're using Google Analytics, if you're using your Google login, there's all kinds of ways, not to mention algorithmically, just like following the links and trying to figure things out. They are a registrar. Your private domain registration doesn't work with Google. They know exactly who you are. So if you've checked off all the boxes and you're trying to hide your link network with multiple IP addresses and stuff, yes, that's a valuable point as well, which is the what the gentleman said. If you have one person misbehaving, it could actually affect others. From an IP address perspective, I actually don't think that's a big problem. Many hosts have one IP address that serves many customers. We're running out of IPv4 space. The 9 digits that make up an IP address, we're running out of them. And getting dedicated IP addresses is nearly impossible these days. And so you have to think about it from Google's perspective. Why would they nuke all of the sites on a single IP address just because one of them was misbehaving? Now sometimes that, for example, like with spam or with distributing malware, sometimes you can kind of get in the way or get caught up in those kind of things. But that's actually fairly rare. And again, a multi-site is just your sites. So unless you actually are giving those logins to third parties, like Brian was talking about with like clients, if you were an agency, then yes, you might have that problem. But you have that same problem on any IP address you're on. Again, the way the web and the internet work has changed since that was a rule. And I think that today's world, it's a little bit more ambiguous on the importance. I personally don't think you need a dedicated IP address at all. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. The point the gentleman was making, again, for the video, sorry if you guys keep hearing it twice, but would be like perhaps if there was one niche under one IP address, that might cause some confusions. Look, there's all kinds of platforms that do that, right? There's car dealership website platforms that only have car dealership websites on their thing. I think for the sake of this, maybe we could take this offline and again, debate greater. But look, if you're not doing something where you're trying to obfuscate the relationships, or if you're doing just pretty plain Jane websites that are not anything crazy, I personally don't have a problem at all with keeping them on the same IP address and in the same multi-site. But if you're trying to obfuscate the ownership of sites for whatever reason you may be doing that, no, it's a terrible way to do that. So
yeah, they're gonna know who's being shady or not, for the most part.
Yeah, if they were a client or whatever. Other questions, just in general? Yes, sir.
If what was wanting to move the site from, say, Drupal or Joomla to WordPress, are there tools for that, or what's the best process?
There's a couple. So the question was if somebody wanted to migrate platforms, right? Move their site from Drupal or SharePoint or whatever, a custom built application over to WordPress. Is there tools to do that? There's one called, what is it? It's WP Site Import. There's a couple of them. But yeah, I mean, the best way to find them out is just search like, hey, WordPress migration tool. I actually specialize in data migration, something that really excites me, moving data around. But so there's some tools out there that'll migrate data from like Drupal to WordPress. But Drupal is a content management system just like WordPress, and if you're leveraging third-party, Drupal calls them modules. Depending on how the modules are built, they could create their own tables and stuff within the database, and you may need to create a custom script depending on what your content that you're migrating is to move that data over from whatever the platform is into WordPress. If you're interested in doing a migration, though, we can take this offline. I could talk to you more about that. But there is some good tools out there for kind of doing that. If we got 5 minutes left. Also, if you have a bunch of CSV files that you're trying to import into WordPress, there's a bunch of tools for that. Actually, I'd really like to tell you guys the name of it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Are you connected to the internet?
We'll tweet it out at you later. There's an agency also, or a company that specializes, and I believe they're called Fantastic, and they specialize at CMS migrations. But if you're migrating from Drupal or Joomla or any other website platform to any other website platform, I don't know about you, I've never actually had that be a push button thing. There's always something that doesn't get caught. Your call to action, your MailChimp integration. Like, it can integrate in the titles and posts and stuff, but you also have to get your page names and maybe your SEO metadata. There's always something that doesn't make it push button. Yeah. But there's, again, this company called Fantastic that kind of specializes in that. You might want to check them out.
There's also instances where you might not even have access to the database. For instance, with Newark Public Schools, we had about 80 schools that were on this platform, a niche platform for schools called Schoolwires, and their websites were horrible. No mobile strategy. All their pages were like ID equals 76576. Like, what the hell does that mean? So they wanted to jump ship and move to WordPress. We got on the phone with them and to try to get, we were emailing them over and over again, trying to get a database export or some kind of export. And we got on the phone with them finally, and they said that, hey, we're not going to give you an export because this is, you could re-engineer our database schema, and that's intellectual property. So we're like, shit, what do we do? So I wrote a script that basically scraped all the websites and the content from all the websites. And first thing I did was I went after each of the sites. So all the administration at Newark Public Schools had to do was put in the website URL, click a button, and then I would, my script would go to the site. I attacked the menu first, and basically I did that so I could import the hierarchy of the pages. Then after I had the hierarchy of the pages and all the pages imported into WordPress with no content, I went back into each individual page and grabbed all the content. And Schoolwires, they made it really easy for me because they had HTML comments in each page that said, content starts here and content ends here. So I just parsed that stuff out and grabbed it. It was probably even faster to do that, to scrape it from the front end, than it was, if I did get a database export of it. So that might be a good solution too. With the platform migration, it might be easier to scrape the front end than it would be to try to scrape the back end.
Yes, sir.
Coupon for updating your plugin,
Oh, the solution for that? That's it's in this build I really love, but literal.co/Clipper. We'll talk about that. Now this is using FMTC's older, not old, but kind of higher end service. But they actually do have some free and freemium lower price stuff that will automatically feed that data into your site through little modules and stuff. I did not get a chance to study up on their newer things for this presentation because I love this build so much. But this build will get it all in there. And FMTC charge you a little fee that goes along with it. But again, it allows you to kind of have this automated site. So while it costs money, it doesn't cost you time. So it's a trade-off.
WP All Import, that's the name of it.
I think we can do one more question.
Come on, one more.
We've got it all. There we go.
Sir.
Security.
The question is, what security plugins do you use? There's a great service called Security, which actually has like a firewall to protect from malware and stuff like that. But there's a whole bunch. There's one called VaultPress. If you search for top WordPress security plugins, there's a whole slew of them. There's ones that that will block your login after several attempts, which is a great one for people trying to brute force their way into a website. There's also some security techniques to where you could put your WP admin behind an Apache lock. So they have to actually know the Apache lock password to even get to the admin page to put in their regular WordPress password. There's a lot of great security tools out there. I would just recommend searching, doing a Google search for top WordPress security plugins.
Security is spelled S-U-C-R-R-I, right?
One R, I think.
One R, and they're really cool. So they'll scan. We use them a lot. Also, WP Engine, where they'll scan for PHP vulnerabilities. So if there's known exploits, they scan for that. They have a firewall function, and they'll even help you recover if your site gets hacked. And they're relatively affordable in the grand scheme of things. I don't know what their cost is. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on their service, but if I think of it, I'll let you know. So we're out of time, so I want to be respectful for the next group. Guys, if you guys have questions, come up here, tweet at us. I'll be here until Wednesday. Brian, I think you're here that same amount of time. And thank you guys very much for coming today.
Thanks, everybody.